The Universities of Wisconsin Board of Regents will vote Tuesday on whether to fire system president Jay Rothman after he refused to quietly resign. Rothman, who's led the UW system since 2022, says he won't step down without being told what he did wrong. The board president says Regents have been in good faith talks with him for months and calls the move a decision about the system's future. Under his contract, he can be removed without a stated reason, but must get 6 months' notice.